Hi everyone, this is Ali Hassan. Welcome you again to our series of presentations on project management for all. And this is part 6, which is we're going to talk about the project planning and design phase. So quickly we go on to see what are the project phases. So the project phases or stages are the initiation, planning and design, executing, monitoring and controlling, and at the end is the closing. So in part 5, in presentation in part 5, we talked about the initiation phase. And we're going to recap on what we talked about quickly here. So what is done in the initiation stage or phase? We do the business case, we do the feasibility study, we create the project charter, we assemble the project team, we identify the stakeholders, we set up the project office, and at the end we review the phase in order to see that we have covered everything and we have not missed anything, or we may need to revise some of these activities. So the planning and design phase, which is the second phase after the initiation, the definition of this phase or this process, and this definition is taken from PMI. This process group consists of those processes that establish the total scope of the effort, which means what do we need to do in the project. Define and refine the objectives of the project and develop the course of action required to attain these activities. Therefore, so we establish the scope of the effort, we define the objectives of the project, and develop the course of action required to attain these objectives. What are the major output of this phase? So the first thing is the project management plan, which we'll use as baseline to monitor the project against. The second major output of this phase is the project documentation, which are used to carry out the project or execute the project. And this documentation could be drawings, could be reports, could be procedures, and etc. These are general remarks on this phase. As more information are gathered and understood during the life cycle of the project, additional planning is required. So, when we progress in the project, we get more information. We understand the requirements more. So we need to revise our plan and revise our documentation. Or there are some changes maybe required by the client, or even the project team may find that they need to do some changes. And once these changes are approved, we need to revisit the planning process and or the initiation process. Even the initiation process, which is the first phase of the project phases, we may need to revisit some of the activities like the business case or other activities. The ongoing refinement of the plan is called the progressive elaboration, which means the planning and documentation are iterative or ongoing activities. Once we find more information, once we understand the project more and the requirement more, we may need to revise and update some of the plans and some of the documentation. The project team must seek and encourage stakeholders' involvement. And we said these stakeholders are anyone involved or affected by the project. So the project team must seek information and encourage their involvement in the project by giving us feedback and whatever information they have. This will help the project to be successful. When the project management plan is approved, it becomes a baseline for the project. So during the execution of the project, we monitor the project progress, where we are, and how much we spent, and what activities we have completed, and so on. This progress we compare it to the baseline, which is the project management plan, in order to see where we are. So the planning activities, these are the major planning activities, and we will go into details later on. So the first one is scope planning, work breakdown structure. Third is the schedule planning. Fourth is the resource planning. Fifth is the budget planning. And sixth is the procurement planning. And seventh is the risk planning. Eighth is the quality planning. And the last one is the communication planning. And then, of course, as we said before, at the end, we review the phase in order to see if we have, covered everything and so on. So these activities, the project scope management, what do we mean by that? And the project scope management, we plan the scope management by collecting the requirements of the project. And then we define, once we collect the requirements, we define the scope, which means what do we need to execute in the project. And also we create the work breakdown structure. And hence we develop the project scope management plan. The project schedule management, at the end of, we need to develop a project schedule management plan by defining the activities of the project, sequencing these activities, which means when we need to do each activity. And also we estimate the activity durations, how long each activity will take. Keep in mind, these are all estimates. And at the end, we develop the schedule of the project. And also we develop the project schedule management plan. The project cost management is to plan the cost management by estimating the cost of each activity, and at the end we determine the budget of the project and the budget of each phase and also the budget of each activity. And at the end of this activity, we develop the project cost management plan. The project stakeholder management. What do we mean by the project stakeholder management? In the project stakeholder management activity, we define and document the approach and actions that will increase the support and minimize the negative impacts of some of the stakeholders. And also we identify the key stakeholders with the level and power they have on the project. So there are key stakeholders and there are minor stakeholders. And each one of them has his or her own power on the project. Some of them has major power and major effect on the project. Some of them has minor effect. The project risk management. With the project risk management, we identify the risks, which are the negative and positive risks. We perform the qualitative risk analysis, and also we perform the quantitative risk analysis. And at the end, we plan the risk responses, how we respond to each risk. The project quality management. In this activity, we define and identify the quality requirements and also the standards, the requirements and or standards of for the project and its deliverables. And also we document how the project will demonstrate compliance with these quality requirements, which means that we develop and produce the project quality management plan. The project resource management. And the project resource management, we plan the resource management and estimate the activity resources, how many resources we need for each activity. Resources means, of course, manpower, equipment, material and tools, and so on. The project procurement management, and we talked about this in part 4 in this series. The procurement management, this process is necessary to secure the workforce and material requirements and services in support of the project, and also securing and monitoring of the contracts, the main contracts and the subcontracts. The last one is the project communication management. This is very important activity. So what do we do in the project communication management? The purpose of the plan is to gather the information of the stakeholders and their roles, and determine the type of information needed to be shared with these stakeholders, and also identify the methods of communication. The methods of communication could be emails, could be letters, could be faxes, could be meetings, and face-to-face communication and telephone calls. So every stakeholder, we determine and plan how we communicate with that stakeholder. And this is the last activity of this phase. And as we said before, at the end we need to do a review of the phase to see if we have missed or we need to update some of these activities. So this is the last section of this presentation. I hope it is helpful, and we hope to see you in the next presentation. Thank you, and see you again.